Lamel. Hi, Dr. Scott. This is Heather Acock. This is my video where I am evaluating Lamel's lesson plan based on the TPACK rubric and lesson component requirements. I chose to use a video taken with my iPhone because it provides me freedom to be able to switch between the screens so I can reference different things. Also, it helps me to pull up the TPACK lesson requirements and rubrics so I can actively apply those standards to the lesson as I'm commenting on it. So, in beginning with this, Lamel, I really enjoy your the content of your lesson. This is really creative. I personally don't have a lot of background knowledge on moon phases myself. I understand just a bare minimum of what's going on. So with that, I honestly I think that this would engage many students. I think they would find this super interesting. I know I definitely would, and so I think you're on the right track with that. I think that's really great. Let's see. So I wanted to start with your standards and objectives. So, in my first comment, I know I left a lot of comments. This is the first one. It begins with Hi Lamel, in case you don't see it when you first open it up. But beginning with the standards and objectives, really with all that you have going on in the lesson, I really think that you have a lot of freedom to maybe apply some more content standards to the lesson, not only in regards to science, but also whenever you decide to go back and edit the lesson plan, you will need to integrate another content area. And so I've actually provided some suggestions for that later in the comments, which I'll touch on later. However, I think that you could possibly include some other standards and objectives just to expand on what you're doing here. Also, I did notice that you forgot to include your NETS standards for teachers and NETS standards for students. Also, the essential standards for technology that are provided by North Carolina, that would also be a set of standards that need to be involved in this lesson plan. So if you will go back and include those, and you also need to go back and integrate another content area into your lesson, you'll be good to go. Let's see. Alright, so for the lesson objective, I have personally been taught to format lesson objectives in a very specific way. I have included that in the comments on the sidebar here. These lesson plan objectives that I have learned to make involve audience, behavior, condition, and degree. So if you were to format this lesson objective into those standards, then you would you would list something like, provided with 8 pictures of the moon, the students will be able to identify the phases with 85% accuracy, something like that. So you would have the condition, which is what they're provided with, the audience, which is the students, the behavior, which is what they're doing, and the degree, so that would be the measurable rate of accuracy. And that's always one sentence. So that is how I typically do it. I don't know if different educational degree tracks require you to format it in different ways. So if you'll just take a look at that, you might be able to either just make that a little clearer, your lesson objective that is, or you might just want to leave it how it is. It's up to you. Also, in reference to the engaging part of the lesson, I think it's really great. It gets students thinking about what the phases of the moon are and how they work. So, what I commented on in regards to the Padlet page was really, what would the Padlet page involve? In your rationale, you include how you would format the Padlet page, and I think that this would be a really good place to incorporate some of that. Explain, what will the students exactly be looking at? What will they be thinking about? What kind of questions would you follow up this part of the lesson with that would engage the students in Bloom's taxonomy, or the application of Bloom's taxonomy? So if you'll think about that, I think that this could really be expanded and enhanced a lot. Moving down to explore, this is also a great way that you're involving the students. Let's see. I would like to mention that in this section you have a great opportunity to include some IELTS strategies. IELTS strategies are those strategies that not only support all students but specifically support students with special needs. So how you would modify this, ideally how you would modify this exploring part of the lesson to support group comprehension is to turn this into a think, pair, share activity. With think, pair, share, you probably know the students pair up or group up to discuss something, but first they think about their answer, then they discuss it with their group, and then they share it with the larger group. And each group summarizes what they discussed and what their conclusion is. So you could actually tweak this to become an IELTS strategy in your lesson. So teaching strategies are always awesome. You'll need to just continually integrate those into your lesson plan, so this would be a great opportunity to do that. Alright, so for explain, as you know, teacher input is the most important part of the lesson. I would love to see you include more in this teacher input. I felt that you actually included more teacher input in your rationale than you did here, and if you will just integrate more of that into your teacher input in your lesson plan, this would make it a lot clearer what you're doing with the students, like how you're engaging their thinking, how you're teaching them, what teaching strategies you're using. However, it also helps you to clarify and demonstrate how you're aligning the lesson with the content standards. So it also provides the framework for how you're going to extend the students' comprehension and ability to apply their knowledge throughout the lesson. So this would also be a great opportunity to include some Bloom's taxonomy based questions. Alright, so for elaboration, reading this for the first time, I thought it was really interesting and also really creative that you were calling this an autobiography or storytelling. As I noted in my comments, this would be an awesome time to incorporate another content area, specifically language arts. So, considering that you are having the students to create a voice thread, you could actually have them write a script for their video. You could have them write a paragraph apiece. You could have them write a short story, maybe based on a personal experience. I'm sure there are some standards you could find that would help you to integrate language arts into this lesson, specifically in the elaboration part. I really like your use of technology here. I think VoiceThread is a great tool. This would also be a great time to incorporate some rubric-like standards and guidelines for the students so that you can be sure that all students will strive to create quality work. So what kind of things would they do? What would your requirements be? Would it only be creativity? Would they have to include all the moon phases? How would they be applying their content knowledge in a new way, or in a way that's similar to your, I guess, guided practice part of the lesson plan? A couple notes here, use and create, are capitalized. I'm not really sure why they are. If you didn't intend that, I would suggest just going back and making those small letters. Alright. So, I really like your idea of using a Quizlet. I think Quizlets are really fun and engaging. This would be a great opportunity for you to question them using those higher order thinking skills about what they've learned and how they can apply their knowledge in a new way. So whatever you have them talk about in the voice thread, you could base some questions off of that. I would just encourage you to actually write the questions out in your evaluation, so that it becomes like a rich assessment process, and so that they're thoroughly engaged and actually have to think, I guess, kind of deeply about what they have learned. Let's see, so for your rationale statement, I left a couple of relatively long comments on the side here. So if we look back at the lesson plan requirements chart, let's see, so I made comments regarding the lesson standards, which would be, let's see, the essential skills, the nets, the 21st century skills that will need to be mentioned in your rationale. Let's see. So now we get into instructor use of technology. So going back to your lesson plan, um, although you did a really great job really going in depth with each part of your lesson plan in the rationale. As I stated previously, I really think that you did a great job elaborating on your lesson plan in the rationale, but it seems like you could take some of that content that you talked about and actually integrate it and demonstrate it in your descriptions of the lesson plan in the different parts of the lesson plan. However, in this lesson plan or this rationale statement, I didn't see where you were um, describing why you used the technology that you chose, and also why are you not using other technologies. I know that's a pretty important component of the rubric. Let's see. So it says rationale for selecting the technology for instructor use and down here for student use is sound. And both descriptions and comparisons, they have to include reasons why other technologies were not selected. So why did you include a voice thread instead of like a Google presentation, or maybe like a video or something like that? I know in my lesson plan we're actually using ScreenChomp because I wanted the students to be able to actually make a video of them talking and describing their process as they're actually illustrating the process, because they're doing math. I wanted them to think out loud. Because they were making a budget, I wanted them to provide a rationale for their for the way that they decide to budget their expenses and why they're making the choices they were making. So this would be a great place to talk about why you decide to use Padlet and Quizlet and things like that. Why did you have the teacher make a Quizlet? Why not like another quizzing format? Why not hand out a paper test? That sort of thing. So don't forget to do that. Also, going back to the highlighting, don't forget to highlight each part of the descriptions of technology.